the number you have dialed is not in service at this time.
Am I the only one who thinks this is totally insane? Rob, we're fighting theological injustice here.
They're not using just weights and measures.
He said we have 50 listeners. I think he's being generous.
Read your Bible as interpreted by experts.
Rob, are you as shocked as I am?
It's nonsense. If you've given any money to this, you need to complain. You ask for your money back.
I don't know about you, but I find this annoying. What up, and shalom. Welcome to the Rob and Caleb Show. My name is Caleb Haig. With me, as always, Rob Van Hoff. What up, Rob? How's it going, brother?
Shalom.
You know, I say as always, but you weren't with me last week.
I know. What's up with that? Where was I?
I don't know. I figure you're running errands for the lady or something. How's it going, man?
It is going well. Going well. All is good with my soul.
Good. And did you have a nice week off? We had a fun time here.
Yeah, my wife and I, we went to Coeur d'Alene.
Oh, nice. Idaho.
At this time of year, the eagles come. You know, I don't know where, depending on where people live, they might see bald eagles all the time. But there's right at the end, usually in December, right at the turn of the year, there's a bay on the north side of Coeur d'Alene Lake where these big bald eagles will perch up in the trees, and then they swoop down and grab fish out of the water. And there's just like a gazillion tripods with these cameras with the Mongo lenses
Nice.
on there. And it's like, you know, it was like 10 degrees, so people are just like freezing, but they're trying to get, and it was just really pretty. My wife got some great pictures, and yeah, we just kind of took a week to spend some time together. And
a week to yourself?
Chillax.
Nice. Yeah. Chillax. I said that the other day, and my wife was like, no. You're not going to use that word.
Okay,
This is not 1992, is I think what she said to me. I'm trying to get the audio
the
here.
Called. They want the word back.
Yeah, exactly. I'm trying to get our audio all worked out here. We've had interesting troubles with our audio recently, but I think we're doing good. If there's anything that is too low, please in the chat room let us know. Okay, let's get all the. All the musts out. The Rob and Caleb Show is brought to you by TorahResource.com. Torah Resource is a wonderful place to find all sorts of free articles, all sorts of. Actually, we should plug this too. After I'm done with this, there's going to be videos, all sorts of stuff that you can find on Torah Resource, and you can take classes at Torah Resource Institute. Also, for those who might not know, we have a radio station, which you should be listening to right now, trradio.com. At our programming desk is Gary Springer. However, he is out of the chat room today, which he told me he was going to be, and running our chat room and all of our web stuff is Mark Randall, who is still in Florida, by the way. Congratulations. I think he's coming home tomorrow. So.
Yeah, I saw some cool pictures that Mark posted.
Yeah, that's right.
It's like, wow, that looks warm.
Exactly. So I should mention this. Those who might not know, and I said this the other day, though I put something out the other day on my Facebook page and whatnot, and we're going to be posting these on... We're going to be posting Rob's on the Rob and Caleb Show Facebook page. So if you're not a fan of our Facebook page, find us on Facebook. Is it the? I think it's the. So it's facebook.com /the Rob and Caleb Show.
I wouldn't know.
Oh man!
I just saved it as a link, so I just pop it.
There you go. But anyway, what's going on is I convinced the teachers. When I say that, and not all the teachers actually, but 3 of the teachers, my father, Tim Haig, Gary Springer, our programmer on this show, and then Rob Van Hoff, to do a weekly devotional. And these are going to be a lot of fun because each teacher is going to have a different flavor and a different theme. So for instance, Gary Springer, and I'm hosting it on my YouTube page, and then there's actually a page on TorahResource.com under the community tab. If you just hover over the community tab, you can go down to daily devotionals. Click on that, and then we're still kind of setting up the page, but you can go there right now and check it out. And Gary's is already up there. And so Gary is going through the Psalms, and he's using the book The Cry of the Soul And so he's kind of doing like a book review / study in Psalms. Each one of these devotionals is under 10 minutes long. Okay, so it's like your daily dose of Bible. Okay, so Mondays is Gary, Wednesdays is going to be my dad, Tim Hegg, and then Fridays is going to be Rob Van Hoff. And so on Fridays, I will post Rob's video onto the Rob and Caleb Show Facebook page. So you won't even have to go searching for it. You can find it right there. And Rob, I just received Rob's first video. It's going to be fun. He's going to be doing some comparison in verses, maybe a little bit of dumpster diving, internet dumpster diving, that is. And it's going to be a lot of fun. So I'm not doing one, but 3 times a week you will be able to find on TorahResource.com, under that, on that page, the daily devotional page, you will be able to find what is going on. You'll be
sure, little zip.
Yeah, you'll be able to find those daily devotionals. I'm excited for it. Are you excited?
I think it's awesome. I hope that people actually reply to my requests for like Bible verses and things. But yeah, it'll be fun.
Yeah, and actually the people who are on, who like the Rob and Caleb Show, help Rob out because he's asking for verses, to send verses from the Apostolic Scriptures that he can compare. And
basically, yeah, my initial set would be, yeah, I'm getting a weird sound, Caleb.
Yeah, I know, I don't.
Anyway, yeah, I've got a website that you're basically seeing my screen. And we go to a website that has a bunch of different Hebrew translations of the Apostolic Scriptures. And what I'll be doing is showing people kind of how to navigate that website. I just learned of this website myself. And if they have particular verses they want me to discuss and they want to look at the different way it's been rendered into Hebrew, I want to spend as much time doing that as people have verses for. So it'll be fun.
That's right. Okay. Before we go on, man, I'm getting an echo now. Should we reboot real quick? Should we make our audience wait for a few seconds?
Yeah, that's fine. We can do that.
Okay, hang on just a second. Yeah. So it's time for Rob's Gematria, which is today is show what? 10.
Brought to you by the number 107.
107. Hang on just a sec. Let's cue theme music.
It's Rob's Gematria.
Go for it.
Today's number is 107, show 107. And I have 4 Hebrew phrases, I think, that might be some sort of a sign for us as to how the tone of our show will go today. The first is Magen David, the shield of David.
Ah, the shield of David, yes.
Yeah, without the yod. So it's David, Dalet, Vav, Dalet. And then Milah Tova, which is a good word. B'nai Adam, sons of Adam.
Yes.
And we're going to talk about B'nai Noach. So anyway, B'nai Adam. And then my favorite maybe is Koach HaChaim, the power of life, the strength of life.
All right.
So the strength of our life are those who are disciples, born again, new creations in Messiah Yeshua. He is our strength and our song. So I like that one too. So
I think we should have some kind of a disclaimer for our Gematria, because
if the intro music doesn't embed the disclaimer, then I don't know what will.
Okay, enough playing around. Let's get to it. Let's get to the meat of it.
Oh, wait a minute.
What?
Wait a minute. We have another mystical insight from one of our listeners, Mr. Adam S. from the state of MT. He says, Show 107 will air on TR Radio on January 7th, 107. Ooh. That changed everything.
Oh, man, I wonder if, what's going to happen?
I don't know.
The stock market will crash.
Just tell me what to do. I'll do it. I'm ready. How much money do you want?
Okay. So here we go. Let's get to the meat of it. So the show today, about December 3rd, I think it was. All of a sudden, my personal Facebook feed just blew up. And I'm not just talking about people like my Christian friends or anything. I'm talking about like people in my community, people that are good friends of mine who are one Torah, theologically sound. Okay. Oh, the rapture's going to happen tomorrow because our show is 107. Okay. Anyway. And this is why. This is why my Facebook feed blew up. And in your show notes, I put in a bunch of different links. This from the Vatican Radio. It says, for the first time since the Second Vatican Council changed Christian teachings towards Judaism and the Jewish people 50 years ago, a group of Orthodox rabbis have issued a public statement advocating partnership with Christians and appreciating the religious value of Christianity. Now, a little bit of background for you. The Second Vatican Council, 50 years ago, came out and said, look, anti-Semitism is not cool. I mean, that's basically what they said, right? You can't hate the Jewish people. Just because they deny Christ, you can't hate those people. You're not allowed to hate the Jewish people. So they basically tried to stomp out anti-Semitism in general. Okay? And this is seen now as somewhat of a response to that. 50 years later, the Orthodox Jews are trying to respond in kind with an olive branch. Okay. And this is, I'm going to go on with this article for just a second. It says, published on December 3rd on the website of the Center for Jewish Christian Understanding and Cooperation, also known as the CJCUC in Israel. Quote, to do the will of our Father in heaven toward a partnership between Jews and Christians is signed by over 25 prominent Orthodox rabbis in Israel, the United States, and Europe, and calls for cooperation between Jews and Christians to address the moral and religious challenges of our times. The proclamation's authors are inviting fellow Orthodox rabbis to join in signing the statement. Okay, so this comes out on December 3rd, and it's like people lost their mind. They were so happy. Like, we finally did it. The Orthodox Jews finally think that Christianity is this great thing. Now, I actually have the CJCUCs. I don't know why I like saying that, because there's so many C's in it. I actually have their entire statement. Okay, it's called To Do the Will of Our Father in Heaven toward a partnership between Jews and Christians. And I'm going to read part of this. And I'm trying to, hang on, let me get to my show notes here, as did Maimonides. Okay, so I'm going to read the beginning of this, and then, I'll stop and kind of move. Okay. After nearly 2 millennia of mutual hostility and alienation, we Orthodox rabbis who lead communities, institutions, and seminaries in Israel, the United States, and Europe recognize the historic opportunity now before us. We seek to do the will of our Father in heaven by accepting the hand offered to us by our Christian brothers and sisters. Jews and Christians must work together as partners to address the moral challenges of our era. So this sounds good, right? This sounds amazing, but of course, in true Rob and Caleb show fashion, I'm going to suggest to you that I don't like this. Not only do I not like this, I don't understand why all of my friends, why people in my community, why people who I hold in high regard as people who think well, have found this to be such a wonderful thing. Now, if you're in the chat room, if you're listening to this, if you're on YouTube and you shared this on your Facebook page, that's fine. Just tell me why. Okay. Number 3 on this list, and jump in here anytime, Rob. But number 3
we're on the December 3rd, 2015. I pulled the website up. There's 7 core segments.
That's
right,
correct. Yes.
And so go ahead and throw out what you want to talk about, and we'll discuss it. Because
okay.
I might want to go back to like 1 or 2, number 1 and number 2.
Do you want to read number 1, 2, and then into 3? Because number 3 is where we get to the heart of my issue. But let's just go.
Okay, well, let's take one by one. So if you're listening now, pull up the website from the show notes, cjcuc.com. It's called the Orthodox Rabbinic Statement on Christianity. That, in a way, we're getting into the area of what we call heresiology. we're defining what is Orthodox and what is not. And this statement is not simultaneously asserting an authority of a collection of Jewish rabbis to make such a statement, but they're also defining what is acceptable, quote, Christianity, right? And so we're dealing with duplo legos here, right? To use that old, I think we have that up on, I think Rob Roy has that on Messianic Publications if you want to read that. It's just a simple analogy of the duplo lego. What they're doing is we're asserting a certain kind of duplo lego, which ends up being really the Catholic Church.
And that's and you're jumping ahead now, but that's...
Okay, sorry, well, let's go here. So number one, the Shoah ended 70 years ago. It was the warped climax to centuries of disrespect, oppression, and rejection of Jews, and the consequent enmity that developed between Jews and Christians. In retrospect, it is clear that the failure to break through this contempt and engage in constructive dialogue for the good of humankind weakened resistance to evil forces of anti-Semitism that engulfed the world in murder and genocide. Okay, the Shoah was horrific. No question about it. No question about it. But I think that this first statement here makes it look like the Shoah was a result of enmity between Jews and Christians. And I think that's oversimplistic. That's way too simplistic. There were Christians that were saving Jews, risking their lives to save Jews during the Holocaust, and there were Christians that were most certainly killed in the Holocaust.
For those who don't know, the Shoah is the way that you say Holocaust.
Right. Shoah means the fire, basically. They're not going to use the word Holocaust because Holocaust means burnt offering, and so it's the Greek word for the olah, for the burnt offering. But there were also many, many more millions of people murdered in the same time period, besides just the Jews, right? So to reflect on the Shoah as a horrific catastrophe that stems primarily from enmity between Jews and Christians is skewing the picture to aim the reader in a direction I think that is not helpful. Yes, there were evil forces in the world. I'm not disputing with that. But we need to really clarify, and there's people in what they call Messianic Judaism who have published books saying that the Holocaust, the horrors of the Holocaust are rightly laid at the step of the church and things like that. And that's that duplo Legos picture. There's so much more to it than that.
Well, not only that, but even let's even talk about Catholicism. What was going on with the current Pope during the time of the beginning of the Holocaust, his resistance towards Nazi Germany and all those kind of things play into this. Granted, I am not by any stretch of the imagination trying to say that the Pope at the time was right to finally cave to Nazi Germany. And to even unwillingly go along with what was happening in the Holocaust. I'm not trying to give a pass in any way, shape, or form. But what I'm saying is that there was resistance from the Catholic Church, even from the Pope in the beginning. Now that switched. Okay, that changed over time, but there was resistance from the Catholic Church, and I'm not defending the Catholic Church here. In fact, quite the opposite in terms of this document that has been made now. But what I'm saying is that we can't just say, oh, the Catholic Church is, you want to take Christianity out of it, okay, fine. But certainly the Catholic Church, a sect of Christianity, was responsible or had a major hand in the Holocaust. No, I would still reject that. Were there Catholics who went along with the Holocaust? Sure, there were Lutherans. There were all sorts of different people that went along with the Holocaust. But that doesn't mean that I'm with you, Rob. I reject the idea that the Holocaust was a Christian, the responsibility of the Christians. that they
So
performed the
that's
Holocaust.
just a quibble with the first statement. The second one, I'll read the second, and then Caleb for the third, you can take that one over.
Okay.
Number two, we recognize that since the Second Vatican Council, the official teachings of the Catholic Church about Judaism have changed fundamentally and irrevocably.
Okay, hang on right there. That's the point, okay? Now, what this document, what the CJCUC has done now, is they have compartmentalized.
Branded. They're creating brands.
Yeah, for Christianity. It's no longer, now we see, Christianity falls under this thing that recognizes the Second Vatican Council. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, keep going.
Yeah. And it says, we have, on one hand, we have the Catholic Church, capital C, and the other we have capital J, Judaism. And that's...
Which these 25 rabbis now represent.
Yeah, this is the map of the world that is being asserted, like laid out on a table for us to use as we navigate reality. It goes on and says, the promulgation of Nostra Aetate, which is mean in our time, that's the name of that statement from the Second Vatican Council, 50 years ago, started the process of reconciliation between our two communities. There you go. So there's just two communities involved here: Catholic Church, Judaism. And
actually, I should say, I want to preface this because I can already hear people yelling back at us. I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with Orthodox Jews trying to reconcile, or have good relationship with Christianity or Catholicism even, or anything like that. That's not what I'm saying. And that's not the problem I have with this. Okay, keep going.
Anyway, so Nostra Aetate and later official church documents it inspired unequivocally reject any form of anti-Semitism, affirm the eternal covenant between God and the Jewish people, reject deicide, and stress the unique relationship between Christians and Jews, who were called, quote, our elder brothers by Pope John Paul II, and, quote, our fathers in faith by Pope Benedict XVI. On this basis, Catholics and other Christian officials started an honest dialogue with Jews that has grown during the last 5 decades. We appreciate the Church's affirmation of Israel's unique place in sacred history and the ultimate world redemption. Today, Jews have experienced sincere love and respect for many Christians that have been expressed in many dialogue initiatives, meetings, and conferences around the world.
Okay,
so real quick, just some notes on this. This idea of deicide, that's the idea of that accusation that Jews killed Christ, basically. And our elder brothers is interesting because the Midrash is that the Christian church, the Catholic Church, is Esau, and Judaism is Jacob. Well, Esau is the older brother, and this was a point made by Daniel Boyarin and Israel Yuval in their arguments about the difficulty with the rabbinic Midrash that wants to say the Roman Church is Esau, because the problem with, and then to use Jacob and Esau narratives from Genesis and in the prophets as a way of understanding, a framework for understanding the relationship between the Jewish people, that is Jacob, and Esau, that is the Christian or quote Catholic Roman Church. Because Esau is the older brother in that biblical model. If you're going to use that as the map, then why would Jacob be considered the older brother? And some of those Jewish scholars, like Boyarin and Yuval, have suggested it's because the rabbis know that their religion that they're inventing is, in fact, newer than the faith based in Messiah Yeshua. So now that's a little, footnote on this issue. But what happens here again? Who's wiped? Who has no place on the bus here? If we're looking at a bus and one side is the Jewish people, the other side is the Catholic Church, where are the Jews who believe in Yeshua? Where do they sit on the
Where's
bus?
evangelical Christianity?
Yeah, where's the Protestant?
Yeah.
See, Protestants are done away with. Jewish believers in Yeshua are taken out of the picture. It's you're either this or you're that.
Yeah.
And this is the map that a lot in the Messianic Jewish world have adopted. They've swallowed it. And I think later, if we have time, we're going to talk a little bit about the 7 laws of Noah and versus the 613 laws. It's the same map. These maps lay over each other very nicely because they affirm the Talmudic worldview. And in so doing, it eliminates all the claims in the apostolic writings, or it tries to undermine. It doesn't literally eliminate, but it tries to undermine the claim to say, Abraham is my father, even though I'm Gentile by birth. Rather, I'm told to go to the Sons of Noah section to sit down. Or I can convert, right?
Your section is over there, sir.
Yeah. So, in other words, we're creating a map. And, many we've seen from Dr. Mark Kinzer's work.
Oh, I got you now.
I think at First Fruits Design, I think other these groups get into this issue of thinking along the same dichotomy. It's a false dichotomy. We at Torah Resource are going to continually to sound the trumpet or the shofar that this is a false dichotomy, and there's a wall that needs to be taken down here. But anyway, Caleb, there, number 3 is all yours, buddy.
Yeah, no, I agree with you, and okay. As did Maimonides and Yehuda Halevi, we acknowledge that Christianity is neither an accident nor an error, but the willed divine outcome and gift to the nations. In separating Judaism and Christianity, God willed a separation between partners with significant theological differences, not a separation between enemies. Rabbi Jacob Emden wrote that Jesus, quote, Jesus brought a double goodness to the world. On the one hand, he strengthened the Torah of Moses majestically, and not one of our sages spoke out more emphatically concerning the immutability of the Torah. On the other hand, he removed idols from the nations and obligated them in the 7 commandments of Noah, so that they would not behave like animals of the field, and instilled them firmly with moral traits. Christians are congregations that work for the sake of heaven, who are destined to endure, whose intent is for the sake of heaven, and whose reward will not be denied. Rabbi Samson, end quote, sorry. Rabbi Samson Raphael Hirsch taught us that Christians, quote, have accepted the Jewish Bible of the Old Testament as a book of divine revelation. They profess their belief in the God of heaven and earth and proclaim in the Bible, and they acknowledge the sovereignty of divine providence, end quote. Now that the Catholic Church has acknowledged the eternal covenant between God and Israel, we Jews can acknowledge the ongoing constructive validity of Christianity as our partner in world redemption without any fear that this will be exploited for missionary purposes. As stated by the Chief Rabbinate of Israel Bilateral Commission with the Holy See, that's capital S-E-E, under the leadership of Rabbi Shir Yeshuv Cohen, quote, we are no longer enemies, but unequivocal partners in articulating the essential moral values for the survival and welfare of humanity, end quote. Neither of us can achieve God's mission in this world alone. Okay,
so one thing I have to say, the word mission is used twice here.
Yeah.
It's used as that this relationship, this partnership between Jews and Christians, there's no fear that it will be exploited for missionary purposes, but God does have a mission that needs to be achieved through the co-laboring of Jews and Christians hand in hand.
Okay, so what is very interesting about this? Now, Rob just mentioned Mark Kinzer. Okay, now I went to a session at the SBL by Kinzer that Kinzer was in. He basically is a bigwig in the UMJC. Him and Rudolph both. Now, Rudolph, once again, I've said this so many times on the show, but every time I got to say it again. Rudolph is just a sweetheart. Him and I disagree adamantly on some very core issues. However, I love seeing that guy. He's such a nice guy. Okay. Kinzer just wrote this book, Searching Her Own Mystery. One of the reasons that this whole thing is very not concerning, but I don't know, vexing to me, I guess. And, I don't, just because people shared it doesn't mean that they agree with it. It's an interesting thing that has happened here in this statement by these Orthodox Jews. But one thing that's happening within Messianic Judaism, quote, Messianic Judaism, whatever brand you want to call that, and maybe I should just be more specific. One thing that's happening within the UMJC, the MJAA, the IAMCS, is Kinzer is pushing this new ideology. And that is this. The Jews were given the Torah. You have the Torah with all of its Jewish attributes, things that were given to ethnic Israel, ethnic descendants from Jacob. These are things like kosher, the Sabbath, the festivals, tzitzit, mezuzahs. These things, in his mind, this is not me obviously, but in his mind, these things are identity markers for Jews, for ethnic Israel. And when I say ethnic, I mean descended from Jacob, Israel, okay? The other Israel, those who are grafted in, the Gentiles, those things, according to Kinzer, are not for the non-ethnic Israel, but they're reserved for ethnic Israel. So these Gentiles, they come to a faith in the Messiah. Now, according to Kinzer, are they part of the same house? Yes, they are. Are they part of the same saving grace of the Messiah Yeshua? Yes, they are. Is Abraham their father? Yes, but it's kind of like being adopted into a house, and the house is a duplex. You have your naturally born people on the top level, okay, closer to God. They have the bloodline. We're going to put them on the top level of the duplex, okay? And then on the bottom floor of the duplex is going to be your grafted in Gentiles. So what does Kinzer argue in this book? He argues that he argues that the Catholic Church, not Protestant, not evangelical, the Catholic Church is God's plan for the Gentiles. So the Jews and the Messianic Jews, you get the Torah, you get the synagogue, you get all this kind of stuff. And then the Gentiles, you need to be in the Catholic Church.
Right. Protestantism is
Not-
off the table.
yeah,
Any
not-
reform theological understanding, any reform criticisms of Catholicism are wiped off the table. No criticisms of the Catholic Church
No, because it's God sanctioned in
for
Kinzer's eyes.
idolatry, for example, or anything like that.
Listen to this quote. Thank you, Gary Springer, for directing me to this quote. This is on page 175 of his book, Searching Her Own Mystery, by Mark Kinzer, 175. In such an ecclesiology of mutual indwelling, Jewish disciples of Jesus play a unique role. If we embrace our Jewishness as a spiritual vocation, identify with the Jewish people as well as the ecclesia, and seek to live a distinctively Jewish mode of discipleship informed by Jewish religious tradition, then we become a sacramental sign of the spiritual bond joining the ecclesia to genealogical Israel. We become, like the holders of the episcopal office in Catholic teaching, contemporary representatives and embodiments of the Jewish apostles and the apostolic ecclesia, just as those apostles and their fellow Jewish disciples of Jesus were themselves representatives of embodiments.
They want to create a Catholic Messianic Judaism.
That is exactly right.
They want to set up their own popes and their own what are the other cardinals, and they're just going to label them something different, but they're saying we are the embodiment of the holy Jewish church, and we are the rabbis. We are the rabbis.
We
of the
bridge
holy...
the gap. They're saying that
Yeah.
they bridge the gap between Catholicism and Judaism.
Exactly. And the word embody. We embody the apostolic Catholic Jewish church.
Well,
that's what Kinzer wants to assert.
Here's the
and
other
by
thing.
doing that, he's saying, look, we want a seat at the table. We want a seat at the same table that the Catholic hierarchy has, that the Orthodox Jewish hierarchy has, and we want to be recognized to sit at the same table.
I think that Kinzer wants to be recognized within, and he said this at the lecture that I went to. He wants to be recognized by the Orthodox Jews as a sect of Judaism.
Yeah, that's not going to happen.
Never going to happen. That's what
But but he doesn't realize. I think that hasn't. He's stuck in a way of looking at the world that is preventing him. And I in my view, of course, I'm blind to a lot of things. I think he's literally blinded to seeing this aspect of his theology. The language is so highfalutin. It's just this strange kind of discussion, very Catholic sounding.
Hey, look, Kinzer has missed the mark on atonement and salvation. That might sound extremely harsh. However, for Kinzer to say that the Gentiles have been destined to be a part of the Catholic Church, there are significant theological implications that are made by that. Okay? Number one. So just within Gentiles and the idea of soteriology, how God saves us, to say that we need to be part of the Catholic Church, right there are huge problems. The other thing that Kinzer teaches, and this, keep in mind, this guy is like a high up in the UMJC. The other thing that Kinzer teaches is that the Jews who don't believe in the Messiah Yeshua, they might reject Yeshua, but they believe in a coming Messiah who will save them. And God, since they're God's chosen people, God sees that as a belief in the Messiah, the coming Messiah, and reckons that as a belief in Yeshua. This is how Kinzer basically, the question of were the Jews who died in the Holocaust, were they saved? Kinzer's going to say, yes, they were saved, even if they didn't believe in Jesus, because they were Jewish and they believed in a coming Messiah. Therefore, they believed in the Messiah, and thus they were saved. It's quite a leap. And so the idea of soteriology, how God saves people, is kind of, it's not kind of, it's totally messed up for Jew and Gentile. But according to Kinzer, that is. I'm not trying to lump all of the UMJC and all of the people within the UMJC as believing this. I'm just saying that this person, Mark Kinzer, who is a prominent teacher within the UMJC, has a convoluted idea
built
of soteriology.
Built into this is also Kinzer's idea of post-missionary.
Yes.
And what this means is, like this last statement here at the end of number 3, as stated by the chief rabbinate of Israel's bilateral commission with the Holy See, that is partnership with the Catholic Church,
which I think
under the leadership of Rabbi Shir Yashuv Kohen, we are no longer enemies. What this is a shield that says you will no longer tell us. Part of the agreement here is that you're not going to tell us that Yeshua is the Messiah, that we need to have new life in Yeshua to have eternal life. You're going to stop beating that drum. Otherwise, this commission is over. You see what I mean? That's the undercurrent here, is that you're going to be good Christians, we're going to be good Jews, we're going to keep that separate, and you Christians aren't going to tell us that we need Yeshua for salvation. Oh, because if you do, you're going to be kicked off the bus.
Okay, so the other thing that I wanted to touch on here is, they bring up the Noahide laws. Where was that?
Well, he quotes Rabbi Jacob Emden from the 1700s.
Yeah, on the other hand, he removed idols from the nations and obligated them in the 7 commandments of Noah so that they would not behave like animals of the field. And they mentioned this.
There's a whole book on this.
There is. Later on in this document, they once again talk about the 7 laws of Noah. This right here stakes a theological claim to not only push out anyone who might believe in one Torah theology, which is not on their mind. I know that that's not on they're not thinking of one Torah.
They're not interested.
We're not on their radar. But what it does is it actually pigeonholes Christianity as well, including the Catholic Church, which to me is surprising. And this is one reason that I was somewhat surprised that all of, even Dr. Michael Brown, who I respect, and a lot of my friends, I had people send this to me, send me these articles in email and on Facebook, which I just thought was interesting because people who hold to one Torah theology, to say that the 7 Noahide laws, and even people who hold to Christianity, if you hold to Christianity, let's say that you hold to evangelical Christianity, let's say you're a Baptist or a Lutheran. If you're a Baptist or a Lutheran, are you telling me that you really only believe that there are 7 laws that God has retained within the apostolic scriptures? No. I don't know of one, and not only that, but this sets up salvation by works. If the Gentiles keep these 7 laws, then guess what? They're saved, right? What are these 7 laws? Let's talk about that real quick. This is a quote from Avodah Zarah 8:4 concerning 7 requirements. By the way, these are super late. Okay, I think my father argues that the earliest attestation that we have of any kind of 7 laws of Noah for the Gentiles is first mentioned in the 3rd century A.D. and he also argues that nowhere in those references does it say that the Gentiles will be saved if they keep these laws. Okay, so this is from the Tosefta Avodah Zarah 8:4 concerning 7 requirements were the children of Noah admonished, setting up courts of justice, idolatry, blasphemy, fornication, bloodshed, thievery, and a limb torn from a living animal. Okay, and this list, you can read my father's in your show notes. You can find my father's article that he his paper that he read at the ETS on the 7 Noahide laws. It's called "Do the 7 Go to Heaven?" He gives you a extensive amount of rabbinical literature talking about the Noahide laws and what they were, how they were formed. The list is not the same in all the documents. Okay, it shifts from rabbi to rabbi. The number, it wasn't first 7. It wasn't, it shifted. Some had 4 or 5, some had 10, so on and so forth. And so basically, in Sanhedrin 13:2, and these are the 2 quotes that I put in our show notes. We have Rabbi Eliezer says, this is Sanhedrin 13:2, none of the Gentiles has a portion in the world to come. As it is said, the wicked shall return to Sheol, all the Gentiles who forget God. The wicked shall return to Sheol. These are the wicked Israelites, said to him Rabbi Joshua. So right now he's saying no Gentile can make it in. If it had been written, the wicked shall return to Sheol, all the Gentiles, and then said nothing further, I should have maintained as you do. Now that it is in fact written, all the Gentiles who forget God, it indicates that there are also are righteous people among the nations of the world who do have a portion in the world to come. So in other words, what he's saying is, okay, yeah, there are some Gentiles. There are some Gentiles who make it in. And then the question obviously has to be, how do they get in? And what's the answer? The answer is, from the rabbis, the answer is, well, there's these 7 laws. So so now what we're saying for Messianic Jews, for Christians who are not Catholic, okay, even for the Catholics, what these rabbis have now said in this document is, look, you want to get to heaven? We got a way for you. Our rabbis set it up for you. God set it up for you. You have to do salvation by works, and it's these 7 works. Who cares about lying? Who cares about slander? Who cares about any of these things? Doesn't matter. You can do those. We expect you to do those because you act like animals of the field. Okay.
Oh, and by the way, don't do Shabbat, because when a Gentile keeps a Shabbat, he's liable to the death penalty. That's
exactly.
Transgression. So there's a lot wrapped into this.
Yeah.
If you buy into the 613 versus the 7, there's a map there that we need to recognize, like Caleb, like you're pointing out in the article that Tim Haig, your dad, wrote, that explains this. He goes in to show how this was not something that was in the air in Yeshua's day. This took a long time of development. It's a post-Christian, if you want to say, it's the post-emergence of the apostles preaching the gospel throughout the world. It's coming after that was already being spread, the gospel being spread in Israel and out to the nations. So it's in the wake of the preaching of the gospel. And so we have to realize that rabbinic efforts to try to tell a story that it's older than what it is, we need to recognize that as disingenuous. And that's an attempt to skew the scales, and we need to protect against that. Just as we don't want to be the people who are tipping the scales, and we're not. How are we going to benefit Messiah's kingdom if we're acting deceitfully, right? So in the same way, we're going to not let somebody else do the same thing. And so this idea of an oral Torah that goes all the way back to Moses at Mount Sinai, that the rabbis preserve throughout every generation, that's what we call a myth. It's a myth of origin. It's a story they tell about their traditions to give it legitimation. No different than in the Catholic Church. Well, actually not. I don't know so much as even in the Orthodox, because we have Orthodox Christianity. I know that there's some friends of ours who converted to Orthodox Christianity, shared with me a website of I think one of the guys that influenced them was a Jew who had originally he's a Jew and now he's like a father in the Eastern Orthodox Church. He read the Orthodox Christian stories about how they hold the true oral teaching of Yeshua. They keep the true way to understand the apostolic writings, and apart from their authority, you're gonna misunderstand it. It's the same story. It's the same story. You just changed the names have been changed, but it's the same picture. It's that we're the in group. You need to do things our way, according to our tradition, in order to be recognized as acceptable. And this is what this is what's being destroyed. These are the walls that are being destroyed by the gospel. We're mandated by our master, our savior, Yeshua, is to discern between traditions of men and the word of God. That's the power of the Reformation, right? And what's happening here when we see the building up of these two institutions, Orthodox Judaism and the Catholic Church, and then this other group trying to get the seat at the table. We are the institution that bridges these two. They're all building on the wrong map, according to the wrong map. It is attempting to silence the prophetic voice that is the core of the Reformation.
Well, there's more to it than just that too. And look, I'm not saying that if you shared this, you've done something wrong or anything like that. What I'm saying is that, and once again, I think that the want to try to reconcile differences between the Catholic Church and, big C, capital C, Catholic Church and Orthodox Judaism, I think that that's a worthy thing. I don't have a problem with that. And I think it's interesting that the Catholic Church has accepted this, though. They've accepted. Is the Catholic Church really going to say, yes, we believe that 7 laws save you? Now, granted, the Catholic Church seems to teach a salvation by works, but the works are not necessarily the 7 laws of Noah. So it surprises me that
right. Well, here's another issue. They quote Maimonides, right, in one of these. Well, if you go to Maimonides, to his laws of kings and the Halakha of kings, he talks about the Gentiles. It says they are not permitted to innovate religion, l'chadesh dat, which means to innovate religion or to do commandments according to their own knowledge. That, in other words, if they do so, like if they do keep the Sabbath or innovate any matter, that they are liable for punishment. So this idea of innovating religion, well, how do you explain the difference between the 7 laws of Noah as they are codified in the Babylonian Talmud with the Catholic Church, and you see all the things that have been added, all the things that are way beyond that? It's problematic. So these Orthodox Jewish rabbis themselves are being selective with their own tradition.
Of course.
In order to make this happen. I bet we could, for every one of these rabbis, we could probably find 10 more that are totally anti this statement. So that's the other thing. We don't want to take for granted or presuppose that this represents a monolith. Oh, look what Orthodox Judaism is doing now.
Yeah.
They're finally recognizing that Yeshua has some kind of kosher voice in the world for the Gentiles. That's what the headline sounds like. But when we look underneath, we need to really be careful.
Okay, so there's other issues that we have to look at with the Noahide laws. I'm not suggesting that these rabbis are the only people who have brought the Noahide laws into theological matters. In fact, I would say that Christianity, I got to be very careful. A significant amount of evangelical Christian scholars, as well as Protestant scholars and so on and so forth, have actually taken up the Noahide laws. And it is a very prominent view. Now, I'm not saying that they believe that the Noahide laws in some way save you, as does the Orthodox Jewish view, at least as it seems to me that the Orthodox Jewish view has taken, that if the Gentiles keep these 7 laws, all of a sudden they have a place in the world to come. Rather, it seems that a lot of evangelical scholars have taken up the position that God sanctifies. Okay, so justified through faith alone, but God's sanctification somehow comes through the Noahide laws. And last week, while Rob was gone, I had Dr. Craig Keener on. I referenced his massive work on the book of Acts. Those who are in the chat room right now, you can't see this. This is just one volume, one of 4 volumes. This volume right here, just to give you an idea, is over 1,000 pages. It's huge, okay? And he talks about Acts 15 in this volume. And he takes the position that Acts 15 in the Jerusalem Council and the 4 laws that are given to the Gentiles are, in fact, an early version of the Noahide laws. He is not the only scholar to take this view. In fact, this is probably one of the most prominent views on Acts 15. Listen to what he says about the Noahide laws here. And this is just an excerpt. I'm not going to read this whole thing, obviously.
Oh, come on, Caleb. We have time for 1,000.
This section is ginormous in and of itself. He says, now he's giving 4 different views from scholars, scholarly views on what these 4 laws in Acts 15 could be. Okay, and this is the fourth option that he gives, and it's the one that he rests on. So this is the view that he takes. Now, my father challenged him a little bit in the book. We were walking the book display, as I said last week, and we saw Dr. Keener. My father actually challenged him a little bit on his view of the Noahide laws. He says, quote, this is on page 2263, and the volumes go continuously in page number. Okay, so the first volume is like 1 through 1003, and then volume 2 picks up at 1004 page number. Anyway, so 2263, quote, the 4th major proposal for the decree's background is the so-called Noahide laws. If by Noahide laws we mean the developed rabbinic form of the idea, naturally the sources are late. So at least he realizes that Dr. Keener is a good scholar. He realizes the date of the rabbinic literature is quite late. But I'm going to go on. But if we consider the range of early Jewish traditions concerning what God required of Gentiles, non-Jewish descendants of Noah, a core of relevant material is available. Later rabbis normally held Gentiles responsible not for keeping laws given only to Israel. See, now I disagree with that, but for keeping the few requirements that God had given to all humanity, namely laws given up to the time of Noah, from whom all people were descended. These laws appear fairly often in rabbinical sources. Okay, so he's going to go on and take the Noahide laws as the way that God sanctified. And obviously, what's the end of that? What's the end of that view? That Gentiles only have to be sanctified, Gentiles only have to keep 4 laws. Does Christianity, does modern Christianity, any form, you can lump any kind of Christianity in there. Mormonism, Jehovah's Witness, Seventh-day Adventist, it doesn't matter. Catholicism, does any form of Christianity that anyone can give me, does any one of them believe that there's only 4 laws that the Gentiles actually have to keep to be sanctified? I would say no. I would say that there is not one sect of modern Christianity out there that says if you keep the 4 laws in Acts 15, you're sanctified, done.
No, but maybe the Church of the 4 Laws. Maybe that's what we need.
My point is this, that even Dr. Keener is going to tell you that, no, that's not the case. Dr. Keener keeps the Sabbath on Saturday. He's not a Seventh-day Adventist.
Okay, so anyway, yeah.
So
it gets into this idea of what is the yoke, right? When Peter earlier in Acts 15, Peter talks about this yoke. and this yoke which neither we nor our fathers were able to bear. Some take that yoke to be the Torah of Moses. Some of those in the Messianic Jewish thing say that it's pointing to Gentiles who, we can't ask Gentiles to keep the Torah because it's difficult enough for us to do it. So why would we ask Gentiles also? And so these Noahide laws is seen to be given as a lighter. I'll tell you what, we know that it's too difficult for you to keep the whole Torah. Therefore, we're just going to give you a few commandments. And as in your dad's article, the do the 7, go to heaven article, he points out, and I think he's got a parallel statements in the yoke of the law, or the yoke in Jerusalem, Council of Acts 15 or something like that. There's 2 articles that are both helpful. I think the do the 7, go to heaven is the longer one, and that was the one he presented at ETS many years ago. But point being that the later story among the rabbis is that the Gentiles were given 7, and they weren't even able to carry those, right? And the Jews were given, Israel was given the 613, and they have the spiritual strength to do them. But in fact, that early story paints a picture of Gentiles aren't even able to keep the 7. So it is not about a statement of righteousness. It's about, wow, Gentiles, you can't save them. There's nothing you can do. They can't be sanctified by commandments. Anyway, there's a complicated issue, but yes, definitely the necessary reading. And it's sad, too bad that Dr. Keener spent all that effort and had all those wonderful resources, but did not engage with your dad's article in his discussion of Acts 15.
Let's be honest. My dad is pretty much an unknown in the Christian scholarly circles, right? He's, in their eyes, he's gone off on his own path of this kind of Jewish Christian thing. So, I would say that he's not referenced in those kind of circles, but perhaps he should be. So anyway, maybe this is a total rabbit trail here, but one of the things that I would say about this article is, I was telling my dad today, it seems like all the guys who teach two-house theology say that they're not two-house. I wonder if that's just because two-house theology has become like a bad word almost. Like, you're two-house? But there's a number of guys that I've talked to recently who say, I'm not two-house. I'm not two-house. Even Staley, before he had his troubles, he called up and talked to my father and me for quite some time at one point. And Staley said he was not two-house as well. And then he came out with his teaching on two-house. And basically, came out as a two-houser. And okay, so why do I bring this up? Why am I on this rabbit trail? Okay, because one teacher that I recently talked to said, I'm not two-house. You can't show in my teachings anywhere where I advocate a two-house theology. Okay, and he's probably right. I probably would be hard-pressed to find somewhere in his teachings where he advocates a two-house theology. However, the company that you keep, the people that you associate with, will somewhat label you. Right? If you are not two-house, but you're constantly on the teaching circuit with a handful of two-house teachers, what are people going to think?
Smith writes, are they two-stick? I love it. Hey, you know what? Think about it like Kinzer bilateral ecclesiology, or this bilateral commission between Orthodox and Church, Catholic Church. That's two-house. Now, all you're doing is you're just changing it. Well, we're not going to call, it's not Judah or Yehudah and Ephraim. It's not Judah and Ephraim. It's Jacob and Esau. Yeah. But it's still two house. You stay in your house. We stay in our house. There's no room for, you're one or the other. And together, we're going to, like the number 7 there, together we are going to remain dedicated hand in hand, playing an active role together in redeeming the world.
And so the whole
the redemption of the world, according to these rabbis, several Orthodox rabbis from Israel, the redemption of the world is envisioned as having something to do with very different than the message that you must be born from above. You must be born anew in Messiah's kingdom, through his resurrection life. It's something other than that. So they're casting a vision of redemption of the world that has elbowed out the core assertions of the gospel.
Well, and here's the other thing is that I guess the reason I bring up the whole guilty by association reference and the two, my story of Two House is because if I were going to share this, I don't think that there's anything wrong with sharing articles like this. I honestly don't. But if I was going to share this on my Facebook page, I would say interesting that that these Orthodox Jews are trying to reconcile with Catholicism. However, I'd have to what I wouldn't want to happen is for someone, I have a lot of friends on my Facebook page who aren't believers, who are friends of my wife or family of my wife, or friends of mine that I grew up with that are not believers. I wouldn't want people to think, Caleb thinks that this is, that this applies to Caleb. Because it doesn't, does it? I mean, I would think of Catholicism basically as, it would be like if the Orthodox Jews said we have a new friendship with Buddha, with the Buddhists. If I shared that, would people think that I was a Buddhist? Probably not. But and that's because Protestantism grew out of Catholicism. Okay, I get it. But I see Catholicism as a religion that is not what is taught in the Bible. Right?
Yeah, that's why they both need it. It's like neither rabbinic Orthodox Judaism and Catholicism are biblical, are based on biblical theology. So they're both like, okay, you build your sandcastle, we'll build our sandcastle.
Yeah.
We'll protect the water as best we can for breaking down either one of our sandcastles, and then we'll just play king of the castle, and you don't come in our territory, and we'll kind of meet halfway at times and talk about how we're going to protect our two castles. Then you have the Kinzer group that's like, well, we want to build.
Yeah, can I play with you guys?
Can I play with you guys? The point is, they're all castles made of sand. I mean, that's our one Torah hermeneutic demands that. We're kind of, when we assert a sola scriptura hermeneutic, we have to say, hey guys, you're both building on sand. Just so you know, you might persecute us, you might marginalize us, you might say we are irrelevant, but what do you do?
Before we end this discussion, I want to stress one more time, because I can already hear the comments on the YouTube page, and I can already hear the Facebook comments and everything like that. I want to be very clear. If you share this on your Facebook page, I'm not putting you down. And if you think this is a great thing, that's fine. And I'm not saying that there isn't something great about the Catholics and a handful of Orthodox Jews trying to reconcile something. That's fine. What I'm suggesting is I don't see this as a great step in any direction for me as a believer, for Protestant or evangelical Christianity, for Messianic Judaism, or for one Torah theology. I don't think that it affects me in any way, shape, or form. And not that means that I shouldn't, say this is something that is interesting. Okay, that's fine. What I'm saying is that when we bring in things like Catholicism and the 7 Noahide laws into the conversation, this automatically excludes me from the conversation. We're no longer talking about me and my faith. We're talking about what I consider a different religion. Now, my atheist friends say, no, you all believe in the same God. So this is talking about you. This does relate to you. That's why I want to distance myself, or at least give some precursors if I'm going to share something like this, and say, I don't believe this. This is not the theology I hold to. So this doesn't apply to me. This might be interesting, and this might be something that I think is newsworthy, but I don't think that it's theologically applicable to me and my life and my faith. That's all I'm saying. So please don't think that I'm downing all my friends who posted this or anything like that. Your Facebook page is up to you. You can post what you want on it. So go for it. Okay. Anything else? Is there anything else that you want to talk about, Rob?
No, I think hopefully we represented this document accurately in terms of what it's trying to say, and we also hopefully gave a clear, articulation of our difficulties with it and why we think that people should not take it for as if this is some major movement or step forward. I think if it's a little tiny step forward in dialogue of Orthodox Jews dealing with Christian world, but if it's just Catholics are dealing with, sadly they're not hearing the voice of the Reformation.
Do you think that
the criticisms of the Catholic? Okay,
let's give a little bit of let me play devil's advocate, or maybe not devil's advocate. Let me play the advocate from the evangelical Christian. So these Orthodox Jews have recognized Catholicism in some way, shape, or form. Doesn't that open the door for dialogue for the Protestants and the evangelicals? Could that be the argument that could be used?
No, I'll see it. I'll believe it when I see it, I suppose.
And I think the one answer or the one response that I would have is that the Protestant Reformation was a huge, and I mean huge, world event that took place. It changed the course of history for the world. Yet here we are, 600 years later, 500 years later, and the Orthodox Jews, quote unquote, at least these 25 or so Orthodox Jews, still are not dealing with evangelical Protestant Christianity. They're still only dealing with the Catholic Church, which means that they have still yet to recognize the historical event that was the Reformation. And I think that's what you were basically saying, Rob. Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
good topic.
Yeah, I think that this was a good one. Go ahead and write us if you want to. It's cheg@torahresource.com. It's rvanhoff@torahresource.com. Hey, please don't forget to check our Facebook page, like our Facebook page, because you're going to be seeing Rob Van Hoff's weekly devotionals every Friday up there. That's going to be fun. I'm excited for it. The first one goes up this Friday. So be a part of it. Share it a lot on your Facebook page so that we can get some more exposure. And we sure appreciate everyone in the chat room joining us and being with us. And join us next week. I don't know what in the world we're going to talk about, but we're going to try to find something to talk about that will not only be interesting to you, the audience, but will glorify our great God and Savior, Yeshua, the Messiah.